shit has got to go.
When you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
They let you do it.
Jeez, your girl's hot as shit. In the purple.
Whoa!
I seen a lot of girls that day in purple that were hot as shit as well. Only a few of them were topless, though. It always turns out to be the beautiful, young, skinny debutante types. Democracy looks like you lost a fucking election. Big mouth. But before I go on to say anything else here, notice the main demographic and the preponderance of white people. And I think it lends a lot of credence to the claims that feminism is the realm of the upper middle class white female. And I wondered about this. So as soon as I got home, I searched social media for pictures of other events and marches from around the country, and it was the same thing. Bunch of white women. And white men. Cocks. Cocks. Excuse me. Don't they all look conspicuously college educated? I mean, not many of these people look like they work with their hands or get dirty for a living. Just saying. I also made a phone call to somebody that attended the rally in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and she expressed disappointment at witnessing the exact same thing. In fact, she wondered out loud to me why this is. I didn't say so, but I thought to myself, well, perhaps it's because you earned a master's degree in education all the way back in the 60s and worked your way up to becoming the head guidance counselor of a large high school. You never married, you never had children, you owned your own quiet little home on a quiet little lake, and now you're living out your days in a retirement community that many people, women and men of all races, will never hope to be able to afford. And I think a lot of people wonder what you have to complain about so loudly. Really, who held you back? You'll notice a lot of recurring themes in the signs and the placards, and the first one being the I'm with her, with the multi-directional arrows pointing to the people marching around her or him. Cock. Oh, excuse me again. It's obviously a play on Hillary Clinton's campaign slogan. You know, here's a hint. Using feminism as a platform, I'm a woman, vote for me, being offered as the main reason to vote for the Democratic nominee is among the top reasons that you lost. I mean, it just wasn't enough, and rehashing the whole thing over again now is pretty fucking pathetic. When you're so far up your own asses, you still can't figure out that this was the main reason that you lost, and that repeating yourself over and over and over again is doing more damage to your cause. So then, of course, there's
Feminism, the radical notion that women are people.
Well, no shit, Sherlock. I'm pretty sure as a Western woman you have the same rights and more privileges than any human on the entire planet. There was a lot of them that said, the future is female. So much for egalitarianism and the lack of misandry and feminism. But my overall favorite, and there was a ton of these, was, this pussy grabs back. And I thought to myself, good Lord, woman, that is awesome. I mean, you girls are doing your kegels. There's nothing better than a pussy that can grab a hold of your dick and give you a good tug. Make it pulse a little bit. Oh.
You know, the kind got a little special extra muscular control and give you a nice grab there when you need one and give you a decent hump. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So I know 5 different women who attended various events around the country, none in Washington, D.C., and they all fit this same demographic. They're all white, upper middle class, and educated. Every one of them, with the exception of one, have been successful and have either done quite well for themselves or married someone who has. No one's ever held them back, and as far as I know, they've never been raped or sexually assaulted. We have a double major from the University of Michigan. One was head guidance counselor at a very large rural high school in Indiana. I mentioned her before. One has a degree in art and another with a degree in social work. There's some real moneymakers there, huh? First to complain about the wage gap. And finally, the last one was a bank teller the majority of her life and married to a highly successful businessman and now living a very comfortable retirement in a home worth a staggering amount of money. And then we have my mother, who posted on social media from somewhere on vacation in Florida that although she couldn't be there, she was marching in solidarity with them and to show the world what strong women look like, or some such nonsense. Yeah, my mother is a hypergamous, gold-digging feminist who left my perfectly good working-class father and proceeded to drag my young ass around the country, following the new meal ticket wherever his dynamic career on the rise took us again and again and again and again we moved. That's a subject for another video, and that one's gonna be a long one, boys. Story time. So that brings me to exactly what is all this fuss about, and the conclusion that I've come to over the years is that they really just don't like being women. It's not suffering under the patriarchy, it's not sympathy for those women who have it much worse off than they do, it's not that anyone's holding them back from being successful in life. They really just don't like how we evolved as a species and the roles delegated to them by nature and natural selection. They don't like that they were the ones granted the hardship of carrying and bearing the offspring, and without outside help from either a man or Big Daddy government, they simply can't do it on their own. I find it pretty funny that a diatribe on birth control and abortion can be uttered in any near proximity to the words strong and independent. What part of being dependent on pharmaceutical-grade hormones that are manufactured in high-tech factories overseas and shipped via a global transportation network makes you independent? And what part of needing a major medical procedure to safely interrupt the natural reproductive process without significant bodily harm makes you strong? A process that you started at your own choice, but didn't have the foresight to realize that following through with it would be detrimental to your lifestyle. Seems kind of feeble and irresponsibly weak to me, especially when you demand it be provided for free and steady point your finger and call names at people who have the slightest issue providing it to you. I mean, think about a pregnant female, or one who had just recently given birth in a pre-agrarian society. If you don't know what that is, that's a society of hunter-gatherers before modern humans discovered farming and the technology we were able to develop with the time it freed up by being able to feed larger numbers of people. Think about the impossibility of raising and caring for that child on her own without a strong man or a community of men around for protection and calorie provision. Can you envision a pregnant female of 6 months hunting down animals that are either quicker or stronger and larger, more dangerous with a spear or a bow and arrow? Think about one who had just recently given birth and, ripped from belly button to asshole. Or how about a woman with a 2-year-old toddler in a dangerous environment that won't stop crying or screaming at the top of its lungs because that's what kids do just for fun. Apparently, I don't have any, but do you think it might be hard to hide or escape from predatory animals with sharp teeth and claws and olfactory nerves that can smell you from miles away? And what about traveling extremely long distances on foot while in the 3rd trimester, or after recently giving birth, or with a small child in tow to find a new patch of berries or other food sources? Fact is, it's always been the same, and is it any surprise that one of the loudest demands out of third-wave feminism is for paternity leave? Because a woman who's just given birth can't even return to her cushy office job without frickin' complaints. And her tattered and ripped body can't even stand for 8 or 10 hours in a modern climate-controlled factory. And besides that, her children suffer in daycare or with a babysitter. And like it or not, males are not well adapted to caring for infants. I mean, I won't go into the negative consequences of leaving a child in daycare while a woman pursues her selfish goals. But the data is out there, and it isn't healthy for children. A woman is simply not designed to be strong and independent. They can yell about it all they want and demand the rest of society pay for their decisions, but it's not going to change that fact. The best, safest place for a prehistoric female with children was back at the cave. And the best place for a modern woman with a child is at home caring for that child while the male she has chosen to pair bond with goes off to work. Is that sexism? It's just reality in my opinion. Ladies, if you want to be strong and independent, keep your legs closed. Or get a job and pay for your own damn birth control. Or insist that the bad boy, broke-ass thugs you choose to copulate with wear what is known as a condom. And that's what this whole ugly, irrational mess is about. It's about reproductive rights. What reproductive rights do men get? You basically get a condescending speech about keeping it in your pants or fuck you, pay me. So do I want to outlaw abortion or make it hard for a woman to get birth control? I'm not in that camp, absolutely not. In fact, I think it should be encouraged. I don't even mind paying taxes to fund these hoes' bad decisions. But as far as this no slut-shaming nonsense goes, that should have been tossed out the frickin' passenger side window as soon as someone first uttered the two words together in a fucking sentence. If it were up to me, I'd start a nationwide ad campaign dedicated to slut-shaming. Give men and boys the same right to opt out of parenthood that women have. Old Dirty Don the Big Pimp, our new commander-in-chief, that's my trademark name for him. I think he'd be the perfect man for the job. It might go something like this. Ladies, it's 2017, and it's okay to be a slut. In fact, I think you'll find that boys love sluts, but being a slut may come with unintended consequences. Women are not built physically or psychologically the same as men, and as much of a shock that this may come to you, you may find yourself with another human growing inside you. We have recently enacted legislation to provide men with the same option to bail on the reproductive process that you have had since the Roe v. Wade decision in 1973. We have provided you with free hormonal birth control. The government is now providing free abortion services to all sluts in need. What we will no longer be providing is welfare programs to help you raise your illegitimate offspring. If you are unable to financially support your child, find a good man and fast, because otherwise it will be taken and given to a responsible couple who will raise it to acquire an aversion to law enforcement and or stripper poles. But remember, sluts, you know and I know and everybody at the club knows that you don't particularly care for nice boys, and you will receive zero sympathy for dry vagina syndrome brought on by having to behave yourself long enough to keep a man around. The days of letting you saddle up on a guy's wallet and ride it till it drops from exhaustion for the same mistake you made are over, so don't be a slut. If you feel an episode of slutitis coming on, call the Slut Hotline. Birth control will be rushed to your doorstep by an officer of our newly founded federal agency, the Slut Patrol. Dial 1-800-888-SLUT. That's 1-800-888-SLUT. And we can save society a great deal of debt, hardship, and sorrow. So, in relation to all that, does anybody remember the collective panty bunch-up that feminists and women in general got into from the recommendations that the CDC made last year? They simply suggested that women of childbearing age who drink alcohol use birth control because damage to a fetus can occur from using alcohol before a woman even realizes that she's pregnant. Well, they also used widely accepted statistics about the increased risk of rape and sexual assault that comes with alcohol use and abuse, and of course, this was met with cries of victim blaming and slut shaming. How dare you cite facts to strong and independent women that encourage them to be strong, independent, and take responsibility for their own actions. And I won't even go into the fact that regret sex and consensual sexual encounters while under the influence are now considered rape by mainstream third-wave feminists. It's not as if alcohol is an aphrodisiac and leads to decisions that you might regret in the morning, now is it? I'd like to see the statistics that included every man in history who ever woke up next to a frickin' Wookiee pig and chewed off his own arm and then snuck out the back door as a rape victim. Because I think we might tip the scales of justice on that one. So let's talk about women's bad decisions and the apparent dichotomy within the female mind that leads to the irrational and this emotional and this batshit fucking crazy. It's hard to make sense, after all, when you're a walking contradiction. And Dirty Don's grab him by the pussy comment is a perfect place to start with this. For one thing, when somebody lets you perform a physical act on them, like grabbing them by the pussy, that's not assault. What really pisses these women off is once again their own nature, and if not their own nature, women who throw themselves at rich, powerful men with high social and economic status. It's impossible to argue that women are not hypergamous. I mean, how many of the women in this crowd do you figure have joked with their friends about finding a rich guy to marry? How many of these UW students here do you think have high hopes about landing a med student or an MBA that plans to go into investment banking? I mean, old Dirty Don, he's walking proof of women's willingness to prostitute themselves for a comfortable lifestyle. Now, let's face it, the dude has a big old ugly head, shitty hair that's falling out, he's got small hands, and that mouth of his with those lips. It's like something to behold when he says certain words. Words like, words. The way them lips duck out like that. I mean, he's like outright ridiculous looking. Yet, he lands gorgeous women and will continue to be able to land gorgeous women when he's bedridden and frail from old age or disease. How many of these college-educated types in this crowd do you think will go on to marry, let alone date, a factory worker that makes $12.50 an hour and drives a 98 Buick Rust Bucket? Absolutely fucking zero. And of the ones who do end up making low wages and married an economic peer, a good number of them would throw that dude in the trash heap if set upon by a rich guy that grabbed them by the pussy. So let's take a walk through natural selection and the evolutionary traits that bring this deplorable behavior about. Across a vast number of species on Earth, including humans, females are in charge of mate selection and males compete for their access. Most guys I know, given the opportunity, would have way more sexual partners than what they can attain with just a little smooth talk and some prowess. You might want her, but she picks you, and they revel in the fact that they're sought after. It's absolutely hilarious to me that our newfound proximity to each other and the technology we developed has made it impossible for them to get any peace in their everyday lives. This is what you wanted, but just like everything else, you make bad decisions for yourself and you can't be trusted. I mean, think about how it is for a female when she does choose someone. She goes from being wooed, bought drinks and dinners, flowers and gifts, taken out on outlandish dates, because you know they want you to be inventive and spontaneous because they've been offered it all before. They measure their worth by your effort. They have the door held open for them, and the chair pulled out for them, and everything under the sun laid out in front of them and done for them. And they go from that to being flat on their back with their legs in the air, or face down with their pretty little buttholes looking you in the face, exposed, being mounted by a much stronger, more powerful male climbing on top of them and overpowering them, and sweating and digging and grunting and letting testosterone do its thing. I mean, that's what testosterone's function is. It's a sex and or aggression hormone, and it's put to use during the act of copulation for the male.
They'll let you do it.
Everybody has testosterone, that's what makes you horny. But we have an estimated 10 times more of it than the average female. We do the thrusting and the pushing and the sweating. We're the ones that provide the muscle and use it to get up there and leverage, I guess.
They'll let you do it.
We provide the fury in sex that they seem to love so much.
They'll let you do it.
I mean, I realize that everybody likes a nice, soft, love-making session from time to time. You know, candles and scented oils and beautifully worded sweet nothings whispered in breathy tones directly into the ear.
Whatever you want.
But for the most part, more than likely, you're not going to be asked to attend the next party.
They'll let you do it.
If you don't deliver.
They'll let you do it.
If you've never been lucky enough, I mean, if that's what you want to call it, to be around a bunch of females and to hear how they talk about guys that can't fuck, I think most of you would be in for a shock. They have a good laugh at the expense of two-pump chumps and the size of guys' dicks and the fumbling insecurities of inexperienced dudes. I used to date this chick who had an ex with what must have been a prominent curve in his dick. And they used to turn red in the face laughing while they called him Captain Hook, and they do talk about the size of your dick. All the time, from what I used to hear, they'd comparing left and right. Increasingly now, I've noticed a solid majority of them, they want to be choked and have their hair pulled and their asses smacked, and they like to be bitten. A good lot of them actually like to be slapped around and roughed up while they're getting plowed.
You can do anything.
I wasn't raised that way. I'm an older guy.
Whatever you want.
I don't know, maybe they were holding it all in years back, but I can't tell you the amount of females that like to be choked, especially.
They'll let you do it.
I guess that's what these delicate flowers full of sugar and spice and everything nice want. I mean, I'm so curious about
They'll let
this.
you do it. They'll let you do it. They'll let you do it.
They let you do it. Do it.
Whatever you want.
The last one I brought this up to said that what she likes so much about it is the insatiable lust on display, and it's all because she and her body and her physical attractiveness is in command of the male losing control and like becoming an animal. Well, they have the nerve to hit us with this affirmative consent bullshit. I mean, like, yeah, sure. Would you like me to keep choking you, dear? Well, let me relinquish my grip on your neck long enough for you to answer. Indulge my princess complex and spank my ass till it's as red as a strawberry and tell me what a dirty slut I am.
Whatever you want.
And then,
You men have no respect for women with your catcalling and male gaze. I like some abuses, as long as it's consensual abuse.
so women go from having complete control in the dating, courting, and reproductive process to willingly relinquishing that control when the choice is made.
They let you do it.
She's literally looking for the right man to put her in her place. Some fairly recent studies have shown that women are most likely to cheat on their partner or significant other when they're ovulating and at their most fertile. And their preference for more masculine traits is on display when this behavior manifests itself. They sneak out on that weak little idiot that keeps the lights on, puts clothes on their 2 kids from past relationships in search of a guy to just bang the living shit out of
They
them.
let you do it.
I mean, in the end, it's a search for the genes of males most likely to survive in a hostile environment. So she'll bear strong offspring that won't lay down and capitulate in the face of adversity. I guess a good fucker is a good fighter, and that translates to youngins that's gonna grow up to survive and pass on her genes. Because slow doesn't run down an antelope, and scared doesn't spear a mammoth, and weak doesn't fend off dangerous animals that appear at the entrance of the cave, or the tribe of Neanderthals living in the next valley over, being frightened and having an aversion to risk doesn't translate into walking up to the fire and harvesting it. But unfortunately for them, in a modern world, these behaviors also translate into what they now routinely call toxic masculinity. High testosterone males are more likely to cheat and seek out sex from multiple partners. They're less likely to put a major investment in child rearing and provisioning for one female. They're more likely to be violent and commit crimes, more likely to die in accidents while engaging in risky behavior. My guess is these guys doing the catcalling and telling you how beautiful your ass looks in yoga pants are not the guys on drugs for treating low testosterone. So, the very traits that you no longer wish to put up with are the ones that you've actually selected for hundreds and thousands of years.
Whatever you want.
And it's only now that we built you a civilization that's safe and comfortable, and we killed off the last of the Neanderthals and regulated the predatory animals to the last remaining tracts of wilderness that you demand that men stop behaving like men. You say that society and the patriarchy has taught us to behave the way we are, only you are the patriarchy. And it's you and your lust for power controlled through manipulation is what is actually toxic. You literally evolved as one of the few female animals on the planet willing to copulate when not ovulating, because otherwise no man would put up with your shit. And it seems to me that every one of you think you have the golden vagina, and all you have to do is grace us with it, and we'll capitulate to every unreasonable demand that you make.
Whatever you want.
When I take this into account with the fact that you evolved to conceal ovulation, it's obvious to me that your whole reproductive strategy is based on deception, and it mirrors the way that you go through life, deceiving yourselves in an attempt to deceive the rest of us. And isn't it funny that since the second wave of feminism and the sexual revolution, that women find it harder and harder to find a good man? All it takes is a look at a couple of online dating profiles and the long list of desires and demands, with the photos of the 3 kids from 3 dads, and it's always followed by the inevitable, not here for hookups or one-night stands. Well, have fucking fun with your cats, lady. And if you ever need some dick, I'm not all that picky, fat ass. So, you think you freed yourself, but all you've really done is increase the quantity of sexual partners available to men. But we didn't even have to ask. And for yourselves, I think you're finding out that the only reason most of us put up with your shit for so long is because we had to. So, as a closing note here, regarding the election and all this butthurt in the street and nasty old Hillary Clinton. Isn't the new narrative out of third wave feminism basically if you see something, say something? I mean, they're asking men and boys to nip this supposed rape culture nonsense in the bud and stand up to misogynistic behavior when they see it and if they see it, and to stop victim blaming and slut shaming and all that crap. So my question is, when you're the Democratic nominee and a slew of damning emails are released just 2 weeks before the general election, you hold on to a taped conversation that's 5 years old that you have obviously held on to for damage control. I mean, it was the very next day that tape was released after Comey said he was reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton. And it was used for deflection. And the media was so obviously on her side because they rehashed that tape over and over and over and over again. And nobody whatsoever talked about the contents of the email. So the point I'm trying to make here is, if we're all supposed to say something when we see something, and if this is all up to us, collectively, my question is, just think of all those poor gold-digging Hollywood starlets that could have been saved a pussy-grabbing at the hands of an ugly old rich billionaire. If you would only release that tape as soon as you had a hold of it. But you didn't. And that's pretty pathetic.